Hello and welcome to a hero spotlight and mini guide on Moraxus, a large, lumbering, jolly fellow that brings more axes to every catchphrase he utters. Let's start by going over his abilities. His first skill is an area effect stomp that stuns and damages nearby enemies, similar to that of Pestilence but with a slightly smaller range. The difference, though, is that his stun deals magical damage and doesn't apply as slow after the stun wears off. It still pairs very well with Portal Key for strong initiation. His second skill, Arcane Shield, blocks a targeted or projectile spell up to 2 seconds after it's activated. The skill also passively gives him bonus armor. If timed well and a spell is successfully blocked, he gains bonus movement speed and damage for a few seconds. The bonuses increase significantly as the spell reaches higher ranks. In this clip, you can see that Voodoo Jester basically helps him escape the gank by setting off the shield, and we have a very unhappy Swiftblade as a result. For his third skill, Moraxus throws out what he believes to be generous gifts at his enemies. We're not quite sure where he gets all these axes, but he gets more of them every few seconds. The axes deal damage and apply a slow that stacks up to 3 times on a target, allowing him to get up close to an enemy to stomp, or finish off someone that's trying to escape. With 3 axes to the face, Moon Queen loses 45% of her total move speed, unable to resist the scent of the axes adorning his body. Finally, his ultimate creates a matrix of axes around him with its own life bar that regenerates based on the number of enemy heroes nearby. The matrix absorbs damage and can be detonated at will, dealing more damage based on how much health it currently has. This skill has multiple purposes. It can be used primarily for survival in situations where you're low on health and need to take some extra damage. But for optimal damage output, you don't want the shield to take damage before detonating it. So it would be most effective to activate it, then Portal Key into a group of enemy heroes, stomp, and just as the stun wears off, detonate. Before we go into the skill build itself, I want to mention that the first 3 skill points are debatable. Here we've set up a typical chase scenario with both ways you can do it so you can see the difference and make your own decision. On the left we have Moraxus with level 2 Stomp, and on the right, level 2 Axes. Generally, I would suggest getting his Stomp at level 1 for the laning phase so you can stun-lock enemy heroes with your teammates. I would usually follow this up with 2 levels of his Axes, but sometimes you just need more stun instead of more Axes. You might want to put a point into his shield to block enemy spells depending on the other team's lineup and when you think it's most necessary. But generally, you should max out his Stomp and Axes along with his ultimate Axes before putting the rest of your points into his non-axe skill. Moraxus is a strong lane partner, and although if necessary he can solo mid, having a stacking slow and an area effect stun allows him to work well with allies to get early kills. You can use his axes to last hit creeps and harass enemy heroes. Once you've stacked a slow on an enemy more than once, it's quite easy to get in range to stun. And with a low mana cost and cooldown on his axes, you can easily get the killing blow as they're running away. Moraxus excels at defensive play. With his multiple disables and high survivability, he can charge in and block off enemies from pursuing their targets without fear of dying himself. But if you ever need extra burst damage when playing offensively, activating and immediately blowing his ultimate can prove quite useful when chasing fleeing enemies. Well, thank you for watching this Spotlight video and we hope you enjoyed it. We also hope you enjoy Axes, the official sponsor of Moraxus, the only Han hero to feature the axe effect.